So Rochelle Dean is from the Bahamas. She's the regional program manager for the Americas for Ananke. You'll tell me how to pronounce this, I'm sure, Rochelle, a non-profit publication for women. So could you tell us about your work and the situation of women in Bahamas, and then also about any concerns about transgenderism and men saying that they are women?
Sure. First, I'll just give you a little back information in regards to the Bahamas. The Commonwealth of the Bahamas is a country within the Lucayan archipelago of the West Indies in the Atlantic. And of course, it consists of 700 islands, keys, and islets in the Atlantic Ocean. Our population is estimated at a little under 400,000 as of 2018, relative to statistics. And our GDP totals about $12 billion. We are a democratic state, and we are socially conservative in terms of Christian denomination. And of course, the culture of gender equality is very socialistic. And so currently, gender equality tends to be a means to advocate for more women in leadership roles, particularly parliamentary positions. And so we've seen where we've had our first Governor General, our first female Deputy Prime Minister, our first female Speaker of the House, our first female President of the Senate, first female Attorney General, and first female leader of a political party as of recent. We are currently capacity building for advocacy of civil liberties and political liberties as well, inclusive of the LGBTQ community. And we currently have a new unit in the government's Department of Social Development, which is the Department of Gender and Family Affairs. So gender has been really on the forefront recently in the Bahamas. Currently right now in the Bahamas, I think for the most part, citizenship, when we talk about gender equality, citizenship has always been at the forefront, just because of the fact that there's still a lot of lobbying for those constitutional changes from a legal perspective. And of course, that leads into the discussion on sexual orientation. We are a very conservative country. And so when we talk about transgender, it's new to us, particularly, and it's kind of something that's not kind of a discussion that's pretty much open. You know, people are becoming very much so more accepting of transgenders and, you know, discussions on self-ID and so forth. But we are generally a very homophobic nation. And that's something that I think the UN has documented. It's everywhere in the newspaper. People are not as open to that lifestyle. However, we are a bit more accepting. We've seen that with the new gender division of social development. We've seen where people are allowed to kind of be themselves and fall in line with what transgenders are all about.
Great. So, Rochelle, would you say that women's organisations in your country are quite positive about men who say that they're women, that they think they are women? Is that the general thing at the moment, or is it just not?
No, it's not. We recently had the first chapter of CWIL, which is the Caribbean Institute of Women in Leadership, that was chartered in the Bahamas. And that was, I think that was in partnership with Gender, just so that we can begin, you know, to start that discussion and actually to be all inclusive. So we've seen that has come to the Bahamas, and we haven't had that much controversy in terms of that organization, but it is very open and inclusive, and a part of the whole agenda is to include the LGBTQ community. And yeah, we've seen lots of women in leadership sign on to that, and they haven't kind of strayed away from it. So I think that they are very accepting. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Rochelle, we're basically against men who say that they're women. We don't accept that they are women. So we're sort of we don't believe that you can transition our organisation, and we're concerned about that. But it sounds as if at the moment that's not so much the case in your country. You would say, one, it's not much of an issue, and two, most people are starting to accept it.
I won't say that. I'm saying that there is still, I think it's still a minority. However, I think that people are kind of willing to overlook it. And I think when we talk about, in terms of my culture, when we talk about transgenders, and I completely understand where you're coming from because I have that same view as well. I think that the discussion has to start. And I think that organization kind of allows for the catalyst for it to begin. Because there are concerns that I had with that organization as well in terms of, you know, our culture specifically is more geared towards gender egalitarianism. And so we're talking numbers. And we've seen that because we've seen Canada say that they wanted to have 50-50. And we've seen many organizations and many different governments say that they wanted to have 50-50 in terms of leadership for women. And so when we talk about numbers and so forth and quotas, then definitely we're talking about only specific, there being only a certain amount of opportunities available to women outside of simply having safe spaces for women. We're talking about those opportunities being readily available to women. So when you have an organization that says, you know, they're about leadership for women, and they're including the LGBTQ community, and particularly in the Bahamas, where there are no laws per se where it's not illegal to kind of self-ID, but at the same time, you know, that's without the surgery and all of that. And so, you know, that becomes an issue, especially when you think about the things that other countries would have to do, the regulatory processes that they would have to go through in order for them to actually be considered changing of the sex. So because we don't have those laws set in place, that is questionable. And for the most part, you've seen lots of women also like step away from the organization, but at the same time, you've seen women also embrace it. So I think for the most part, I think people have their reasons for being involved with the organization. So, but the reality is that there's an outlet there for inclusion of the LGBTQ community. I don't think per se that everybody is okay with it, but I think that the reality is it is becoming a bit more acceptable.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rochelle. So that's really interesting, and it's fantastic to link up with you and hear what's happening in the Bahamas. And you're the first woman that we have spoken to from the Caribbean, so it's fantastic to hear from you and sort of link up and see what's happening there